I understand why they did it, and I have no plans to go back to the Kennedy Center. And
well, how am I going to get my tickets back? Come on, this is a tragedy.
Were you not lining up to see Whoopi or Hamilton?
Yes, I was going to go see Whoopi, for sure.
I'm sure you were.
This is sad.
Whoopi's always very popular with the people sitting on your seat on this show.
I don't like the idea, first of all, that it's framed as like a casualty of Trump's takeover. They opted out,
right.
that they decided to walk away and not do, their show that is about civics and rigorous debate. The Hamilton musical is a fight for the future of the country. And they did it during the first Trump term, and they did it quite boldly in the face of Mike Pence in the audience and used the opportunity to point at him and do a shout out as a condemnation of the Trump administration. And to not do it this time, I guess over the bureaucratic concerns about who's running the building, this seems like weakness to me. I think that this is not the way to make an impression and to get your message out there if you're the Hamilton cast.
So I think I'd push back a little bit at the idea that it is just a bureaucratic change, because in fact, the Kennedy Center, and I know we could be accused of being sort of localized here because it's such a DC institution, but it does have national resonance, at least in the arts. And the Kennedy Center's board for a very long time does have people who are nominated by successive presidents. So it has not been the case typically that a Democrat comes in and kicks out all the Republicans or vice versa.
Well, it's going to shape, having Richard Grenell in there, having Trump play, I guess, an active role. Which he is entitled to do, which I think is another important element here, is that presidents have the ability to do this, and I guess most don't make a big deal out of it. But Donald Trump is using his authority to do so, and the kinds of plays that have moved through the Kennedy Center during just, say, the past 4 years, the Biden administration, include 1776, a run of Hamilton, A Soldier's Play, Eureka Day. All of these plays are things that question the goodness of America and try to play with its history and challenge, our roots and our racial history and all this kind of stuff. And that's fine. I love the arts. I'm a theater kid, believe it or not. But the point here that that the Kennedy Center was non-political, that's just not true. They weren't running plays that were excited about the history of the country or optimistic about the future of America. They picked ones that were critical. And we're probably going to see now select weird patriotic plays at the Kennedy Center, which I don't even know what those are, because the arts community is so largely liberal.
That's a really interesting point, though, about the plays and other things that the Kennedy Center has put on, because I think that it is part of the purpose of art to be questioning,
yes,
and to be to probe and poke and to scrutinize. And at times I have seen I can't remember if it was the Kennedy Center or not, a play that I went to that I thought was much too didactic on the left side. It was about Indigenous rights, but to my mind, it just didn't.
Did they do a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the play?
Well, it just didn't. It didn't function as, to my mind, a piece of drama, because there was no nuance to it. It was just
a speech.
Yes, exactly. It was what I'm showing my age here, but what was called agitprop at one stage, agitational propaganda to rile the masses to support the cause of Indigenous people. I've no objection to people supporting the cause of the Indigenous, but it didn't make for good art in that particular instance. But the idea that I don't really love the idea that art has to be about extolling a country's virtue.
Sure.
That kind of patriotic stuff is equally didactic.
And I think I'll walk back one of my points, because Hamilton, I think, is an intensely patriotic play. It is one of the most optimistic tomes that I have ever seen about American history, and the way in which they did that, and Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote that play, was as a celebration, bringing in the inclusivity angle, and then also throwing in some good and well-deserved quips about the ethical quandaries that many of the founders found themselves in. But then what you saw after the Obama administration was that the sort of West Wing neoliberal celebration of, well, things like the West Wing, and then also Hamilton went out the window. The cynicism took over the Democratic left, and they were like, stop celebrating, this like good take on American history. Hamilton is bad. This was everywhere. And so I think that they just need to reassert that and be proud and make it about a message they're going to deliver to Republican administrators in the audience, because that's what it's really going to be. It's not going to be Republican voters in the audience. It's going to be a bunch of administration officials.
I know, and I
tell them to their face what they think of them.
But the idea of catering toward political administrators, I think, is very Stalin's Russia in that way.
And we got to get the Kennedy Center out of the hands of the White House, I guess, because it's always been a tool that could be used for propaganda, setting the agenda for the tone of the country. So maybe there's something more large and systemic here that needs to be readdressed.